All right. So just to start off, your father, my great-grandpa, fought in World War II. So as a child, what was that? Or were you a child? I don't know how old you were. What was that like for you growing up?
I was definitely a child. I was 3 or 4, something like that, when he went away. And it was a very scary time in our family. I lived alone with my mother, and she was nervous naturally about him. And it was frightening. And most of the other fathers around the neighborhood had not been drafted. Like my father, you know what drafting means? Okay, so they had not been drafted. So everyone had their father around except me. And my mother tells me that that was really hard for me. I don't honestly remember that, but she remembered. I do remember the end of the war, and that was incredibly exciting because everyone went out on the street, and she woke me up in the middle of the night, and she said, "It's making me cry," because it was a very emotional time. And she said, "The war is over, the war is over." And everyone, there was a lot of propaganda that said, "Don't believe that the war is over unless the president says so." So when she said, "The war is over," I said, "Did the president say so?" And she always told that story. I have lots of memories of the war because I remember one time there was a troop train that was going across the country and to the West Coast, and it crashed. And a lot of people were killed on it. And she was frantic because she worried that my father was on that train. So she went to a store, like a luncheonette that was on the corner, because we didn't have a telephone. Most people did not have a telephone at that time. So she went to this corner to make a telephone call. And she found out right away that he was okay, which was, of course, a great relief. But it was quite a difficult time.
You lived in Paris for a while in the 70s with your whole family, with my mom and my aunt and my grandpa. So what was that like for you? I mean, what was it like being in Paris in the 1970s as an American family?
Well, it was actually partly the 60s, partly the 70s, I think last time we lived there was in the 80s, early 80s. Anyway, we had never been to Europe before, and Grandpa was given the opportunity of working at CERN, which is a big atomic physics installation in Geneva. And so we decided to go to Geneva, and that was in the late 60s. Mom was about 5 when we went there, or 6 maybe. And it was very exciting. We went to Europe before that, just traveling around, but this was actually living there. So Geneva was, we thought, kind of boring. But it was a good place because it was in the middle of Europe, and you could travel everywhere from Geneva. And then we lived in Paris later, and then we lived again in Paris for just about 6 months each time. And that was, I loved it. I loved it. Paris was a wonderful place to be. It was exciting.
You had relatives in Russia at that point too, right?
Grandpa had relatives. He had an older couple who was probably contemporary with his parents. And we met them, and they couldn't invite us to their homes either. And they were very happy to see us, but they came to our hotel. And they had a son who was more like our age, but he didn't even meet us because it was bad for him to do that. It was pretty repressive. Yeah. Well, thank you for asking all these questions.
So much for doing this, and I'm so glad to be able to hear all your stories in one place,
Good, good. Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you. You're welcome, sweetheart.
All right.
That was fun, Danny. I enjoyed that.